Now turn up.
What up is Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads, where we do daily Dynasty videos. So what we're talking about here is why league settings, league rules make so much importance. I think so many people kind of just even ask questions, and they don't ask questions with kind of like the big three things. One, is it a 1 QB league or is it super flex? Two, how many teams are a part of that? And is it standard, half, or full point PPR? These are very important aspects, and I'm going to be walking through these things and a little bit more. But if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We're giving away, oh, that's upside down. We're giving away a Jerry Jeudy signed jersey. All you have to do is be a subscriber. Doesn't cost you anything. You know, you just gotta hit subscribe, hit it. And if you haven't done it, I know there's some of you watching that haven't done it yet. So, all right. So just hit that, and we'll get to 1,000K so I can give away some more stuff. I want to give away some more stuff. All right. So we're gonna start with the biggest, or not the biggest one. I think it was one of the things that I guess is the biggest difference. 1 QB versus super flex. What is the difference? And then there's tight end premium versus not tight end premium. Well, this is how incredibly important. Look at the rookie drafts. We have Trevor Lawrence, who's being drafted anywhere from like 107 to 112, or pick 12, you could say. And there might not be 12 teams in your league. There might only be 10, which is another reason why that's an important difference. But we have Trevor Lawrence kind of into that late first. What is he in Superflex leagues? He is 1.01. Easy, done for. Most QBs in Superflex are going to have high value. I talked about in a couple different videos in the last couple months. There's half of the first round is QBs. Some of the second round, QBs. You're talking about majority of teams already have at least one. Some have two by rounds 3-4. So that is a substantial increase in value in Superflex. That's why it is so important. It's not important maybe necessarily for the running backs and the wide receiver positions if you're just talking about a running back wide receiver trade. But a lot of times there's picks involved, or if it's tight end premium, that throws a loop. And how much of a premium is it? Is it 1.5? Is it 2 points per reception? Is it double point? Like what is it? And that's 2 times, by the way, PPR. If it's 1 point PPR, or maybe you have a half point PPR league and tight ends are 1.5 point PPR. That's like a 3 times level there. So those are such important details. 1 QB super flex like that, and it does make a slight difference because running backs and wide receivers. Because I will say, if you have really good running backs and wide receivers, but you have horrible quarterbacks, that does make a difference because it looks at your competing team. So if you have your roster, but you don't show it super flex or 1 QB, it makes a huge difference. So the number one thing, is it 1 QB, is it super flex? A lot of leagues are going into the super flex kind of mentality, which is fine. I like them both. The 1 QB leagues are kind of, I would say, kind of being extinct just because we devalue the 1 QB so much, and it's true. But let's walk through what it would look like if we have 10 teams versus 16 teams, and why that changes the difference. It's important because if you have a middle of the road team, let's say you're wanting to compete, but you have a middle of the road running back, a middle of the road tight end. So you have tight end in a 10-team league, 5 and 15, and you have tight end 5. So you have, and then maybe you have Mark Andrews or something along those lines. You're going to lose some weeks and you're going to win some weeks, of course, with that tight end. And you're going to be facing tight ends probably 10, maybe 9, into that range, maybe all the way down to 11. And then running backs, I mean, you're going to probably be facing like maybe 8 and 18, or maybe you have to be facing 2 and 10, like those things. But now let's just look at a 16-team league, which I am a part of some of those. 8 and 24 is an average there. That's a huge drop off on that RB2. It means RB2s are really falling down the hill. So if you have an 8 and 24, you're just an average team. RB24, which if you had 8 and 24 in a 10-team league, you're a garbage team. You probably should just start rebuilding. Maybe not garbage team, but you're probably not doing very well unless you have really good other positions. Tight end is the same thing. If you have tight end 8 in a 16-team league, you're not looking so bad. Like I mean, I would like to have a top 5 tight end, but that top 5 tight end, if you have tight end 5 in a 10-team league, it's like, If you have a top 5 tight end versus maybe, I mean, I started Mo Alley Cox, I've started Anthony Fursker, I've started a lot of tight ends because all of a sudden one of my tight ends gets hurt, and I'm like, well, that's my backup. Because if there's 16 starting teams, that means 16 teams have at least a tight end, which means Mo Alley Cox, and you're going to start getting Adam Troutmans. Like these tight ends are worth a little bit more. And they're a big, huge, substantial change with you and Kelsey. You are dominating pretty much every week you play. You may face a Kittle once a year or something like that, but a lot of times you're gonna be dominating throughout the league. So that is why league size is so incredibly important. And in standard versus PPR, why is that important? Well, standard, of course, you're going to have maybe a little bit less, you're going to be more touchdown reliant, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I do like those aspects, but PPR, which is being more and more popular, kind of how Superflex is, when you have a PPR league, you're going to be talking about pass catching running backs are going to have a higher value through there. So like the Ecklers, even the DeAndre Swifts, who people are starting to devalue a little bit through there, and Antonio Gibson, who we know can pass catch, like these running backs are going to be shot up a little bit. And then wide receivers that are in the slot, maybe even like a Keenan Allen or Robert Woods, like these wide receivers, there's a reason why they're high-end wide receiver 2s, low-end wide receiver 1s, because they catch a ton of balls, they get a ton of targets, same as Allen Robinson. Maybe less versus the Mike Evans, who gets a lot of yards but doesn't get a lot of catches. Some of the deep ball guys, like Robbie Anderson kind of changed his kind of sphere, but used to be a guy who got very few catches and a lot of yards. It happens. So DJ Moore's kind of that aspect where he gets a lot of yards, but it's a lot of times like one catch for 52 yards, and then it's a couple catches, and he ends up with like 5-6 catches for like 100 yards. It's just kind of what he does. So that is kind of my just general, I guess, ideas around why league rules and league settings matter. Now, I guess the big thing I want to talk about the next couple minutes here is why your league mates matter. Why do your league mates matter? Well, if you can trade, I think that's an incredible, important aspect to know. And if you can't trade, and that's also an incredible aspect to know and frustrating aspect because it's not a really good league then. But if you can trade, what is it? Are people overvaluing draft picks? Are they undervaluing draft picks? You have certain teams that do this, certain teams that do that. It's incredibly important to know if you're able to draft somebody, can you trade that player? Or what are your aspects of your league? Every league is a little bit different. And that's why it's sometimes hard to answer questions in a nutshell. If it's close, it's like, you know your league's the best, which is sometimes hard when you have somebody miles and miles away trying to give you advice and say, hey, this is the trade I would do. Sometimes it's like, you have to know your league. Hey, I know that we're all from, like, I'm from Minnesota. Who's going to be overvalued in our league? Probably Vikings. So if let's say last year, if I drafted Justin Jefferson, who do you think is going to be the most overvalued wide receiver in Dynasty? Probably Justin Jefferson. He probably is worth wide receiver 1 overall type ability. Dalvin Cook, probably worth almost running back 1 type, just because we're in Vikings land. If you're in Packers land, or if you're in Jets land, or wherever I don't know how much of the land Jets have anymore, but if you're in that land, then you know specific kind of things about your league mates and everything like that. There are certain league mates I have that will trade away picks as soon as they can. And there's other league mates that will try to hoard picks as much as they can. They honestly don't play for the future. They keep playing for 2-3 years out, and it just never gets there. And it's always kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just take away one of your good players, and I'll give you my first. And all right, well, that's fine. Like you got to know your league mates. You got to know your players. And then there's some leagues that I trade a ton. There's some leagues that don't trade that much at all, and they're more stingy with their kind of trades. They want you to almost overpay for it. And sometimes that's worth the overpay, and sometimes it's not. You have to figure out, are you going to win your division? Are you going to win your conference? We have conferences when we have 16 teams. Are you going to win? Are you a contender? Are you not a contender? These are all aspects that you have to play with. Is there 2 teams that are just going to dominate the league, and you're team number 3, and it's not worth it to get third? Like, I mean, you should just continue to try to rebuild, kind of plan for that like sneak attack where you can sneak in there once one of these 2 teams start to downfall. Like, these are very important aspects about Dynasty Fantasy Football. So I just wanted to kind of give a PSA announcement, which I don't even know what that stands for. Well, whatever it is. So this is Marcus Dynasty Football Dads. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Now turn up.